Okay, today I want to go over 6.0 power stroke rebuilding. I'm going to show you guys, I have one block right here that's already torn down. This one's in okay condition. It came out of a van, but I already have it stripped out except for the cam still in it. So I'm going to show you guys how this one's going to get stripped down. There's nothing, it still has a front engine cover on here. Pistons are still on here. You can tell this one had a ripped screen, so that could have caused some premature failure there. Another thing is I built this D-ring hook here. It's a very nice setup actually. It makes it very easy. I use this one to get it out of the trucks. So if you want plans for this, let me know. There is another device that you can use that hooks up to the front here, and here, and then it has like a all thread that goes to the back if you're going to pull a motor out, so you can adjust the angle and stuff like that. In my opinion, those things are more of a pain in the ass than this. This actually gives me room to play. I can get it real close to the cherry picker. So when you're pulling an engine out, you don't have to pull the cab on the 6 liters and the 6.4s. I just pull basically everything off the front end. The front pick on the 6.4, on the 6.0s, you can pull the plastic pick off, or the fiberglass pick, and just literally yank the engine right out the front. It's very simple. Hours to do it, it runs the same as a van. It's like 30 hours or something like that for a turnaround job. But anyways, I'm gonna get down to showing you guys how you want to tear this thing apart and get it on your engine stand so you can get more stuff taken off. So this process is going to be tearing it down. So I'm going to do a tear down, and then I'll do another video for assembling an engine. So I like to start at the rear of the engine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an impact and remove the water heater. Okay. So this is a 1.25" size deep socket, impact socket. So that gets the water heater out. It's a little used up, but it's still cleanable and reusable. So there's nothing wrong with that. And then the next thing we're gonna do, since this is a manual transmission, we're gonna remove this flex plate here and start with the rear engine cover. Okay, now with this motor, it's got the rear engine cover may be a little different because this one's a manual. So these are two 10mm bolts, or 10mm sockets here, 10mm sockets here, and 10mm sockets here, and then the ones on the outsides are all 13s, and then there's two 10s up here. So basically you want to remove all these bolts, and then we're going to use a pry bar and just basically pull this rear engine cover off gently. The seal is going to come out with it, so it's going to be a little tight, a little snug, but there's an O-ring that goes around it. As long as this engine wasn't severely overheated, I've seen these back engine plates warp, and if it's warped, it'll cause a leak. But other than that, you just got to work with it and get it off. Use a pry bar and pry on the inside here and on the inside here, and just pry it off. So just remove those bolts, and then we're going to go ahead. Make sure you got something underneath this motor because it's going to leak oil. Should be dowel. See another dowel right here. Holding this one on. Just like that. So now you have the rear of the engine, and you got your rear gasket here. We're going to go ahead and toss that. Then you have your branch tube. So you're going to go ahead and remove that Torx drive screw right here, and the Torx drive screw here, and then this branch tube should slide right out the rear. Okay, now with the rear branch tube removed, you can just take this plastic piece, it's the lifter guide, and just remove it. and then take a 10mm socket, remove the bolt on this one, and you can remove this one as well. And now your lifters should literally just slide right out. If you need to, you can put your hand in the back, on the back ones, kind of push them out a little bit, but you should be able to just reach in here and pull them right out. So since I am rebuilding this engine's going to get overhauled with new pistons, polishing up the crank on this one. I don't reuse lifters. I always throw them in the garbage. I don't reuse them. It's a safety and security thing for me. So I'm gonna replace these with new OEM lifters. Okay, now that we have all the lifters taken out and the rear branch tubes taken out, rear engine's cover is off. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take I'm gonna take an 18mm socket, remove the front crank pulley, and then I'm going to remove the front engine cover. Okay, so on some 6 liters you might have the updated front main seal. So once you get the cover off, you'll see that there's a wear ring on here. You don't want to grind these off, and you don't want to use a cutoff wheel to get these off. You want to use the correct tool. So I have from Freedom Racing Diesel, it's a wear ring removal tool. So it basically cups around the wear ring just like that. Put this in here, just like that. Okay, and then you're going to slide the sleeve over it. Okay, and you're going to tighten that up. So now we just use a 1 1/8" socket, and we're going to use a ratchet wrench, and we're just going to basically just pop this off. So this actually slides off pretty easy. It slides off just as easy as it did come on, but I always use the specialty tools on these engines. I like to be persistent, and you have to use in order to get the actual oil pump out. So there's your wear ring right there. When I rebuild this engine, I use a new wear ring on this, so this crank's gonna get polished out. So now we can go ahead and oil pump here should just slide right on out. Grab a screwdriver. So just pop right on out. See what the condition is. It should slide out very easily since there's oil in here still. It's got a pretty good ding mark all the way around. So on this motor, piece of dirt or something got lodged in here, and it looks like a BB or something, but there's a pin on this all the way around. You can see that there's these little pinholes here, and it goes all the way around. So I'm actually going to be replacing this oil pump. I'm not going to reuse this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and continue taking out the rest of the bolts and remove the front engine cover, obviously, and make sure you have something underneath the engine at this point, because it's going to leak out oil and water and whatever is left in the engine at this point. So you don't have to remove the water pump. You can look at the blades when you get it off to make sure everything is good, but I don't plan on replacing the water pump on this truck, so I know it was working fine. So we're just gonna get all the bolts removed here. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. And then I'll go ahead and inspect the thermostat and the water pump later when it's on the bench. So now you have your front cover gasket. Go ahead and remove that. So this is pretty much these dowels here. You want to make sure you remove, especially if you're getting a remanufactured block, these two dowels, there's one here and one down here. Remanufactured blocks from the Ford dealer won't come with these, so make sure you remove these out of your old block. Another thing you want to remove while we're sitting right here on the front, 8mm socket, remove your cam positioning sensor here and your crank positioning sensor, which is on this side of the motor here. And now, as soon as I get these two taken out and these two dowels taken out, you can just use a pair of pliers. They usually come out pretty simple. I'm going to take it and put this block on the engine stand, and I want to do it in this direction. If you put the block on the engine stand and the stand's basically right here, if you bolt it to the stand here, you won't be able to get the cam out because the cam's going to slide out the back end. So if you look at the back of the motor here, okay, you're going to have your two bolts here for your cam, and when we flip this over on the engine stand, I want to be able to get these two bolts out, and this cam's going to basically slide out this direction, and then the crank is going to go downward as soon as we get the bed plate taken off. And then you also have your plastic cover there for the bolts for the torque converter. This truck didn't have a torque converter, so it just had a flex plate because it was a manual transmission. So what I'll do is I will remove the sensors and get this thing put on the engine stand, and we'll continue on showing you how to take this thing apart. Okay, so I got the engine basically upside down, and I'm going to start taking apart the bottom end here. This is a side note. If you're replacing your motor, if you have a 2003 early 04 truck, and if you tear your truck apart and you notice that you have 6 bolts right here in the center, if you have these bolt holes, like if there's actual bolts right here in the center on your block, you won't be able to use your upper oil pan on a newer block. You have to go, you could use it, it will bolt to it with no problems. You're going to get rattling though. So basically you're going to have empty bolt holes right here. If you were to bolt this, like this is an 05 engine, so I can bolt this on any motor basically except for an early 03 block. If I was to go from if you have an 03 and you're going to go to an 05, or if you have an 03 truck and you're going to go to the Ford dealer and you're going to get a remanufactured engine from anywhere, they're going to give you a newer block. You're not going to get an early 03 block. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to replace this upper oil pan part with a newer version, the one that basically has no holes here, so you don't get the rattling when your truck is running. So if you have an early 03 and you took your upper oil pan and bolted it to a newer block and you have a rattling issue and you don't know where it's coming from, most likely it's going to be this. So just a little hint, and for an FYI for people that don't know, you cannot use, you don't want to use this upper oil pan on a 2003 block. You don't want to use one from an 03 and put it onto an 04 and up block. So with this being said, this is an 05 block. We're just going to go ahead and I'll be able to reuse this one, and I can put this one on any engine and not have any problems. So I'm going to go ahead and start with taking off this upper oil pan. Basically, you have 4 bolts here, and you have 4 bolts here. Like I said, if you're in 03, you're going to have bolt holes, and you're going to have bolts in the center as well to hold this down. So I'm going to go ahead and unbolt this and continue on with the disassembly. Okay, so now that I got the 4 bolts removed, you can just simply lift this right off. Okay, so now you have your connecting rods, and this is basically your bed plate. These are your main bolts here, and then you have 4 bolts along the side of the bed plate here. So basically, we're gonna unbolt the mains, and then we're gonna undo the 10mm bolts that are on the side of the bed plate as well. So you can use an impact and leave these alone for now. We can get to that in a little bit. See, there's a little bit of wear on this block. Definitely needs to be rebuilt. So anyways, leave the connecting rod bolts alone for now. Just go ahead and remove your 4 10mm socket bolts on the side, and then your main bolts on the top. Okay, I got the bed plate untorqued and unbolted. There's no tension on this chain, it's just here for a little safety. Now everything's ready to come off. So once you unbolt that, you can basically just take your bed plate and just lift it off. There's a dowel on this side, and there should be another dowel on the other side, but sometimes you have to smack it with a mallet to get it to come loose just a little bit. Again, just use a rubber mallet. Don't use anything that'll ding it up. Okay. So now you got your crank. So we can go ahead and undo all the bolts on the for the connecting rods, and once we get all those done, we can just basically lift the crank out. Another thing I want to point out is when you put this back together, it's very critical to line the crankshaft up with the cam. There is a specialty tool for that, and I will be using that tool when I put this engine back together because I don't want to mess anything up. I don't feel like tearing this engine apart once I rebuild it. So I always use the specialty tools just because I paid a lot of money for them, so I might as well use them. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and undo all the connecting rod bolts, and I'm going to go ahead and lift the cam out. So let's get started on that. So by the way, these are 11mm socket. Make sure, I don't reuse these, by the way, these bolts. They have a tendency to break. I've seen them, Jasper and other companies like that I know will reuse bolts like this. Another thing is, I make sure that I put this back to the corresponding crank that it was in. So I don't mix and match these caps here. So I replace these bolts with ARP bolts. Alright, so I already took one piston out. So basically, you have your oil jets in here on the inside. I don't know if you can see that in the camera or not, but there's one on every piston. I remove those because I'm going to overhaul this engine and they can't be there anyway. So basically, you can take a mallet and you can just punch your pistons right out. And then I just put these caps on just so I don't damage anything, but you don't have to have these caps on to take these out. So when you pull the piston out, this truck had a bunch of blow-by, and I can tell from the bearing wear on the, and you can see the bearing wear on the connecting rod here. This truck was getting a little warm. Maintenance probably wasn't the whole best, and when you look at the pistons, try to find the side of the piston that's kind of worn out here. Usually on the rings, the first one had a bunch of scarring here. So this scarring right here, I don't know if you can see that in the camera. So you have your combustion ring, and then you have your seal rings, and basically the rings were just wearing out from the heat that this engine was created. This truck was a work truck, and you know, it's hauling heavy loads all the time. And right now, just from looking at the bearings, and you know, you can see the heat dissipation from the discoloration on this piston here. This engine got pretty warm, overheated, I'm guessing, and they didn't change their oil a whole lot, because if the oil was changed, you wouldn't see this bad of scarring on the bearings here for the connecting rod. I'm gonna reuse the connecting rods, but I'm not gonna reuse the pistons. It's getting a new pin, and it's also getting new bearings here. So hopefully I don't have to line bore this engine out. But the mains don't look too bad. There's a little bit of scarring on the main bearings, but it's not something that's severe. So anyways, once you get all your pistons taken out, you can just punch them out one by one right now, and then go ahead and remove the 10mm socket head and pull the oil jets out. That's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, is on these oil jets, if you remove them, you'll see that there's not that big of a hole on these jets. So when these jets are trying to squirt oil up into the piston jacket, it's just, if it doesn't get any oil out of this jet, which is probably the cause of why this engine was getting so hot to begin with, you know, the debris that was in the oil probably clogged up the jets on a couple of these pistons and caused the scarring in the cylinders, because a couple of cylinders on this block here is pretty scarred up. You know, it's very critical to keep your oil clean and service it all the time. And you know, 90% of the customers that come to me, their engines are either not filtering because they have the incorrect oil filter and oil filter cap combination, or they just don't change their oil a whole lot. And this is what happens, and this is why people think that these 6 liters are just a hunk of junk, but they're really not. If you keep the maintenance up on them, they can last a really, really long time. You know, it's just, they're not like a Volkswagen or something where you can just run it to the floor, you know. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and take the rest of the pistons out, and you basically have a bare block. So this is pretty much how you tear down the block. I will remove this freeze plug, or this drain plug here on this side, and this engine's gonna get completely tanked and machined. And the next video I'll be shooting on this is putting the engine back together. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward, nothing really to it. And anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to comment. and subscribe. Thank you.